everyone, it's Sensei Victoria Whitfield here, your journey partner in business, welcoming you back to episode 120 of the Journeypreneur Podcast. This is your source for channeled holistic stress management techniques, guidance, inspiration, and motivation to stay on your path to rapid financial ascension and massive impact as a conscious entrepreneur. So I'm really excited. Oh my gosh, I get to share with you an incredible goddess in my life, Nettie Owens. She's an accountability and productivity consultant. You can go and check out her website, momentumaccountability.com. And I've known Nettie for years. It's been amazing to see her different incarnations and getting better and better over time. Welcome to the podcast, Nettie.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Victoria. You're right. It's been years and a transformation for me, for you. It's just been a wonderful ride.
I love it. So this, like when we first met, and everyone, if you're listening or watching in, we met through Fabienne Fredrickson Boldheart. Thanks, Fabienne.
That's right.
And my goodness, like at the time, I remember you were an organizer, and I was just, some energy person, right? And it blossomed over time, right, to your current incarnation. You and I both, like, we've been through a few incarnations over the years that we've known each other, and this may be the very first time that someone's getting to meet you. So I'm curious, could you introduce yourself, but especially tell us, what are the 3 things that you're known for?
Absolutely. So I am just thrilled to be here. And you're right. If I had been on this show when we first met, I would have said I'm a professional organizer, and I loved that identity, and it was so impactful. It's still impactful to the work that I do today. But right now, what I'm known for and what people come to me for is to help clarify their vision and their mission in their work, so that, number 2, they can get their most important work done. And I'm using done very specifically because so often we have lots of things we're doing, but not lots of things we're finishing. And so really, wanting to move those projects along, all while helping you stay focused and removing any roadblocks that might get in your way.
My goddess, I love it. I love it. For some reason, as I was listening to you just now, I had Tom Hanks in my head saying me and Jenny's like peas and carrots. Like you are like the peas to my carrots, goddess, because I bring out the vision and you make it happen. Like this.
That's exactly right.
So good. So good. I love it. And so this, I'm curious then, with those being your strengths, and you really are good. Trust, everyone who's listening in, Nettie is fantastic. She's helped me to reorganize my vision, take actions that have had 5-figure results in a day. So trust me, this woman is fantastic. And Nettie, I'm curious though, what happened that inspired you to become an accountability and productivity consultant? What was there something that happened, or how did this come about? How did your business pivot in this way? I'm curious.
Yeah, and pivot is the best word possible. I know it's being thrown around a lot these days. Every email that I get recently has had the word pivot in it. But at the time, pivot was not the, hashtag code word of the year. And so it really was that. So I'm just going to take quick snippet back. I founded my business in 2004 as a professional organizer. I trained dozens of organizers, some of which went on to start their own businesses and be very successful. And in 2017, I was positioned to really just skyrocket my growth. I had my $1 million plan. I knew what I was going to do. I was going to take my organizing, not only residential, but online. I was going to be working with businesses, and all of it fell apart in 2017. So that's part of the pivot, but it really doesn't explain how I got here. At that moment, which was the spring of 2017, thank goodness we were already in communication, because I'm certain that I wouldn't have had the outcomes that I've had now if we hadn't been in touch, because You were there helping me see how this was really a catalyst, the breakdown before the breakthrough, the unveiling of the birthing of what was about to come out and be even better than I could have imagined. But the inspirational moment that came, I decided, I'm not throwing in the towel on business, which was one of my options. And I'm not going back to recreating the organizing business. I actually had to let that go mentally and physically in order to move forward. And so I started working with businesses and things like that. But there was one November morning in the shower, always in the shower. The best things happen in the shower. But it was one November morning in the shower, and I was heading to my BNI group. So it was early. For those BNIers out there, they like to get things done early. And I'm standing there and I was like, what am I good at? What can I be paid for? Well, people always tell me I'm really great at accountability. I'm the best accountability partner they've ever had. What if I supported them in a way that meant that they didn't have to support me back? Well, what would that look like? Well, they could support me by paying me, and I can support them by giving the accountability that they need to move forward. And so that happened in November, and within 2 weeks, I had started up my first accountability program, which is the foundation now of Momentum Accountability, and filled the program within a day or two of launching it. And that was it. That was the catalyst. It was that, idea in the shower. And so often I get a download, just to use, your terminology that your listeners are familiar with. And the best results come from me acting on that information. And I had a download just the other day. So we'll see, I'll be working on activating that download and bringing it to fruition.
I love it. Isn't it amazing? I have to say, it's a sign that we're from the same tribe, that like your biggest money ideas come from the bathroom, like the bathtub or the shower. It's like, oh, my people. Like
we're meeting in the spa.
Yes, that's right. So we know how that rolls. And oh my goddess, I'm just so happy for you, and also happy for your clients that you received the download, that you took action on creating that offer, sharing it, and being able to just deliver. I remember in the past different accountability partners I've had, and it would become more of a dump fest or a drama fest instead of something productive. But you are part of a totally new paradigm, which is so fabulous, where no one has to worry about that happening ever again. And in your events, it also shows as well. Super clean, super organized. I mean, it's fabulous. And with that, my goddess, I'm curious. Along your journey now, it's been a few, like a couple of years now, of you in this position.
3.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, I just want to pause for a moment, because 2 years ago, I started on this process of rebranding for this new direction that I went in. And you and I had a conversation, and you're like, look, you need to just chill out. Those aren't the words you used. And you're going to be rebranding for the next 18 to 24 months. And I'm like, what in heaven's name are you talking about? I can't. I wanted movement now. I needed movement now. I wanted to know what to call myself. I didn't want to sit in the unknown. And you're like, look, what I see is you're going to be rebranding for 18 to 24 months. And I'm like, this is the most painful thing. You've got to be kidding me. And here we are, 24 months later, and I am very clear now, very clear on what my messaging is, on who I am, on who I serve, on what I do. And if I had jumped the gun, if I had insisted on it being, done and ready at that point, oh my gosh, it just would have been an exercise in frustration.
It's an honor to get to be a journey partner with you, Mama. It's an honor. Do you have one? Is that one of your mugs? Yes, branded.
Oh yeah,
gorgeous.
You've got this, right? It's and I have all sorts of stuff, and these are wonderful things that I actually share with my clients when they come on to work with me, because they remind them, number one, that I'm always there for them, and that they have this kind of support. but they remind them about pillars of the work that we do together. And one of the things that all of my clients receive when they step into a program is, and I'm going to show it on the video, I'll just describe it for those listening, is this little tiny acorn. It's called a milagro, which means little miracle. It's Italian. And it's made by this wonderful company, Danforth Pewter, one of the last in the world. And I purchased these basically in bulk to give to my clients, a special gift of just to remind them of the seeds that they're planting. And this is a good message for me. I keep one on my desk as well, just to remind myself of what I'm planting. It's not going to be planted and bloom, right? Our companies, our businesses go through a growth phase, and so much of that is done in the dark, right? When a seed germinates, it sends a root down into the soil, dark, you see nothing, and then it sends a shoot up, which is totally vulnerable at that stage. And that's such a great metaphor for what happens in our businesses. But I love the quote by Thoreau that 1,000 forests is in one acorn. And what is the impact if you plant one seed, right? How much more could you do? What could your legacy be just by planting one seed? So I keep these things around me, and then I share them with my people so that they can remember these pillars and this foundational work that will help drive their business as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, seeing in the dark is essential, especially in the phase before the growth in business. I don't want to say startup because we could be in business for a really long time, and we're past the startup phase, like the first 1 to 2 years. But the belief time before seeing, like the seed time, the germination time, like the roots time. I think is it bamboo that like is all of the growth happens underground for like 2-3 years before you see anything above ground. And then within like a couple months, I remember reading this somewhere, that it's like it goes so many feet. It's like rapid growth, but because of all of that growth underground. Having the ability to see in the dark and having the ability to enjoy the underground time is everything, right? Having that vision, that ability to see in the dark, you know, and in the shaman circle, we cultivate that and make sure that you have the courage, the pleasure, the energy to be at peace with 18 months of branding rather than like 18 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, there are some people who are listening to this podcast right now who don't quite have the ability to see in the dark, or who are feeling that like impatience, that kind of like, oh, I want momentum now, right? I want momentum now. And what has this ever happened to you? Like, have you ever had an experience where, you know what, it's dark in here, maybe I should just throw in the towel on it? Did you
like every day? Every day. Be honest. For those of you listening, come on, tell me that this does not happen to you every single freaking day, right? And you could be at your multi-million dollar, your billion-dollar mark, and you're still going, is this worth it? Why am I doing this? What's happening? Right? It's just those demons that we deal with. So I'm going to share an experience. Actually, you were there. You were there in the experience. You weren't there physically, but you were there on the other end of the technology. And it was a Saturday morning. It was actually before the pivot and all of the change that had happened. So this was coming. It was building. And this was sort of what was happening before the big change happened. But it was Saturday morning. I was supposed to go do a speaking presentation. Everyone in my household, my husband, my 3 kids, the animals, everybody was asleep. And I'm up getting ready for this presentation. There's like no money in the bank, right? And I couldn't see where the money was coming from. And it was so frustrating. It was before all of my employees quit that year. Like, it was just like, this was everything that happened before that. So there were massive breakdowns that were going to come. And this was kind of at the beginning of this breakdown period. And I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be standing on the cusp forever in my life and not ever make it to a place where my business is going to be viable. I've been in business at that point for like 14 years, and I was just so frustrated. I was so out of energy. I was so tired. And I shared that with you, this like dark night of the soul. I'm like, I wanted to crawl back into bed. I didn't want to go to this presentation. I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to throw in the towel. And it was years later that I heard Nastia Liutin's quote that said, you never quit on a bad day, right? And that really sums it up for me, but I didn't know that at the time. So I reached out to you. I'm like, Victoria, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't even know what to do. I'm just so exhausted. And we stripped it down. Like, what could I be doing? What did I need to do? I wanted somebody to just rush in and rescue me. I was waiting for that, shining knight in armor to come along and swoop me up and say, this is what you do. This is how you fix it. And yet, you shared with me a video from TD Jakes, and you shared with me a video from You Are Your Own Rescue.
Lisa Nichols?
Yeah, Lisa Nichols, which I've shared with other people as well. And it was so like, I was like, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to be my own rescue. I really just want the $1 million now. I want it now. And yet I wasn't ready for it then. My business was in no shape to have the breakthrough. I had to break down even more. Like, the shit had to get seriously real in my life and my business. And it was going to get pretty nasty and dark for a while before things turned around. And then for a while, I was like, I am not an organizer. I do these other things. I'm an accountability consultant. And now, like, many years into where things are, I can speak of all of them. I can see where all of the experience comes in. I can see where everything is, foundational to what I'm doing. There were so many times before that moment, and this is like, be careful what you pray for. I can remember being in Fabienne Fredrickson's program, Bold Heart, and one of the first steps was, to share your story. And I'm like, I got no story. There's nothing interesting that's happened in my life. Oh, hold on, universe said. Nothing interesting to talk about. We'll fix that. And that's when everything happened. It just blew it out of the water. But that moment, that was my dark night of the soul. That was that moment on Saturday morning. I was doing too much. And, these last many years, even now, it's a daily practice of like, what do I let go of? What can I let go of? How do we get down to the core of what needs to happen? And one of the things I teach my clients is having one focus. And it's something that I have to practice. It's not that I've perfected this and that's why I teach it. It's I do it and I know it's helpful. And so we should do it together, and let's continuously focus, refocus, strip down what's not working, get down to the core of what you're doing and use that and go forward.
Gorgeous.
Isn't it beautiful?
It's like, this is so powerful, because I want you to know this, because for someone who's listening in right now, they may have that same feeling of like, oh, well, I don't have a story to share. I don't have anything interesting to say.
Careful. It's wonderful. You definitely want to hop on that train, but that's a power, like, that's like praying for patience. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, things that you want to be mindful of.
Don't do that. That's hot lava. That's out of bounds. And what's also so good about this is that in your story, you're sharing how important it was for you to reach out and like receive the help, or to reach out and ask for help. Because I know I'm an idiot. I will be like, let me try and figure this out by myself because I'm smart, right? I graduated magna cum laude. I got my blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm an idiot. I will try and figure it out myself. And I know, like, I talk about having a toxic can-do attitude and all of that kinds of things, but like in the dark night, you had the wisdom to reach out for help, right? And it's an honor to get to be peas and carrots with you, Mama, because like when it's dark, you need vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when it's bright out, when you really can see the way forward, what you need is someone who can be your fire starter, right? The one who can really help you gain more momentum. And with that being said, I know someone's listening in right now who's saying like, holy cow, there's such a thing as like an accountability, like a real one, not just like someone who, you know, I buddy up with at BNI or buddy up with, no, like I can have one who's a professional. Like, where do we get to go to celebrate you? Where do we get to go to be able to connect and dive deeper into your world, Nettie? Tell us.
Absolutely. So I just want to take like a tiny note on this whole accountability thing. A lot of coaches say they do it, and I got the corner on the market. I'm just going to tell you, because you don't need a checklist. You don't need a worksheet. You don't need, any of those kinds of tools. Those are things you can go ahead and make yourself. You can get them yourself. You can download an app. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like you got a bazillion ideas in your head and you don't know which one to action on. And it all seems confusing and jumbled, or you're depressed, or you have anxiety about which step to take. And I'm not a therapist. If those are conditions going on, you need a therapist, get the support, but also in your business, there are things that you can do to help you know the next right step, and having like a person who knows how to get you to that point is super, super powerful. This is not something you can get out of a book. So that being said, I would like to give you more than just a connection to me. I'd like to give you the book that I wrote, and it's really, really simple to get to it. Everybody here is probably listening to this podcast on your phone. So when you're in a safe space, not driving or anything like that, get your phone out, type in the number 411321. That's the number you're going to send to. And then you're going to send the word freedom. And what you'll receive is the ebook that I've written, and it's the 9 Principles for Sustainable Business Success. It walks you through my process so that you can get an idea of how this works. These 9 principles, actually, Victoria was interviewed for the one on vision, and they really are the things that businesses that have sustained in the long run have in their, like, this is how they do things. So I took these interviews over the course of several years and consolidated it down into these 9 steps. So you can get that access. Text and message data rates apply. You can text stop at any point. But what will happen after you do that is it'll ask you for your email, and then the book will be sent directly to your email address. It's really, really a great way to work through it. I had one person say, okay, I'm stuck on number 1. Don't be stuck on number 1. Read the whole book. Call me if you need help. My number, like a way to get in touch and schedule a time to talk to me, is in there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about how you're using it. That's my gift to you today, and I look forward to being able to send that resource to you, and then also to be able to talk to you. Like, I'm a real human being on the other end of this podcast. You don't have to be shy. My hand is out, available for you to take it if you're struggling in this area.
I love it. I love it. Oh, automation is so sexy. Again, everyone, if you missed that, by the way, it went by super fast. So you put 411321 as if it's a phone number when you're going to send the text. And then in the chat, in the little message,
yep,
the word freedom, and you send that, and it's the magical robots from the sky are going to come and send you through so that you can get all of that fabulous free information. Thank you, Goddess, so much.
You're welcome.
Yay! I love it. I love it. So with that, thank you again for coming to the podcast, Nettie. Mwah. It's always good to see you. And I'm going to turn it over to our listeners now. If this is your first podcast episode on the Journeypreneur Podcast, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on iTunes while you're there. If this blessed you, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, especially because in that little description box underneath your 5-star review, this is episode 120. I want to hear, what was the favorite thing that you learned? What was your greatest gift from Nettie that she shared on today's podcast episode? Again, that was episode 120. Leave it in the box there. I love reading everyone's stories, checking through everyone's takeaways, and thank you for the 5-star reviews and all of the love. We're sending you big hugs. And as always, we end the podcast the same way. Please remember to enjoy the journey. Do not lose your glow as you grow in life and business. And we'll see you in the next podcast episode. Bye for now.